This is Tommy Huber from Two Toms Sport Fishing, and this is the story of our 2020 season. Some might say 2020 was a tough year, but it was one of our most exciting seasons yet. Please watch along as we share our adventures on the water following the migrations of many species of fish, both inshore and offshore, up and down the New Jersey coast. Our adventures began in early February when we started working on the boat and getting it ready for the upcoming season. We refiberglassed the deck, resealed the lower unit, and rebuilt the carburetors. We rewired the entire boat, built a new gauge panel, put in a stereo, and got LED lights. Our first official trip, we began to get reports of the striped bass migration beginning in the Raritan Bay. We trailed the boat up north with our friend Big Fish Marty to get in on the action. We launched the boat at Atlantic Highlands Marina. With the New York skyline in the background, we quickly had our first fish hooked. As the water began to warm, the striped bass exited the Raritan. We headed north in search of trophy bass. We launched the boat in Barnegat Light and headed north to the Seaside Ferris wheel. Once we set up on the troll, we had a bite on a white Maja spoon. I could definitely tell that this was a big fish. After a long fight, I became a member of the 50-pound club. This was extra special because my pop-up was there. We revived and released the fish to let it swim another day. Shortly afterwards, it was Pop-Up's turn, and he caught his personal best at 42 pounds. Pop-Up's fish was also released. For our next chapter, we awaited the full moon in May and trailered south to Cape May to get in on the Delaware Bay drum bite. Our friend Captain Tom Daffin gave us some intel that quickly had us hooked up.
Got into this corner?
Yeah.
The Delaware Bay Spring Black Drum Run is one of the most underrated fisheries that New Jersey has to offer. We ended up crushing the drum, catching multiple 40 and 50 pound drum with a double header of 80 pound class fish. We release all the drum to ensure sustainability of this fishery. This is one of my favorite fisheries and never seems to disappoint. The drum bite only lasts for a few weeks in the spring and is a great way to kick off our season every year. Next on the checklist is spring black sea bass. Our friend Dave Johnson just purchased a 33 Valhalla, and that was our ride to the offshore wreck sites off Long Beach Island. We, along with David and his two sons Tanner and Connor, had lock and load sea bass action, quickly catching our limit.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah, Tommy!
Black sea bass are one of the best eating fish and are fun to catch on light tackle. Double and triple headers are not uncommon when the spring season first opens.
In the boat, Tommy. I'm just throwing it back. Oh, I lost it. Oh. What do you got, Tommy? Oh yeah, Tommy. Let's see, Tommy. Hold it up. Yeah, they are. Get him, Ted. Get.
When the early spring bluefin tuna bite began to heat up, we raced back out in the Valhalla to the midshore grounds. The Valhalla was a beast and provided a comfortable dry ride in sporty conditions. Once we got to the grounds, we put out the side trackers and had immediate action. School bluefin and whopper false albacore quickly put blood on the deck.
Oh yeah, this is a better one.
Is it better than drum fishing?
No.
We had non-stop action and was a sign of the great season to come.
Might be another one of them albacore.
I think it is.
It's a little weird.
For our first canyon trip of the year, we headed out with Big Fish Marty in his 31 Jupiter.
We got Tommy?
Yeah.
Tommy somewhere? Tommy, you let me know if you need anything.
Marty's son Steven was first up and caught a nice longfin tuna.
Oh yeah.
I was up next and caught my first ever skipjack tuna. Shortly afterwards, we got another bite on a Joe shoot on the flat line. We thought it was another skipjack, so I grabbed the rod. We realized after a few minutes that this was more than a skipjack.
Did your father do that to Jay, buddy?
I settled in and hung on. It soon became apparent that this was the bite we have been waiting for.
That's a good fish.
Especially on a Joe shoot, there's a spreader bar there.
I bet it's a little big guy.
Someone put their arm.
I got you.
You're alright, you're alright.
Going straight down.
Someone put their arm on the rod. So close.
Dad, take it out of gear again.
You'll get him back, you'll get him
You
back.
guys got it? Just for a little. Just want to regain my strength.
After fighting the fish for a while, the rod tip broke off. My arms got tired and we passed the rod to Steven.
Did he wear you out, Tommy?
Yes.
Time for a nap.
Even with a broken rod, we were still able to land the fish, 135-pound big eye.
Wait. Smile.
We ended the trip by getting covered up on yellowfins.
Tripled up!
Actually, I'll wait so it's not an oil slick down here.
It seemed like every time I took the wheel, we had a bite.
Where's?
As spring began to turn to summer, the midshore bluefin bite was still going strong. We headed back out in the Valhalla in flat, calm, foggy conditions to try to find the bite. Once we arrived at the numbers, we spotted some whales, and the sidetrackers had the lines tight within a few minutes.
It feels like it's
You got mono on there. You got about 50 feet of mono top shot.
That muscle in there?
Come on!
Tommy's got a yellow.
Come on. This is exactly how the big eye acts.
I don't know. Straighten out. He's good.
It's a bluefin. Good?
We ran home in the eeriest, densest fog I have ever seen. Next up for us, we got back in the 2 Toms. Began our inshore wreck fishing and diving adventures.
Big sea.
Our friend Kyle got scuba certified and was able to join us. Gulp and bucktails really paid off for us, and I caught my best at 8.5 pounds.
Tommy on the beat. Grab the bucktail, Tom. Grab the bucktail.
I was promoted to topsider this year and stayed up top and fished while Kyle and my dad dove.
Is it a ray? It's a ray.
We had some of the best sea bass and flounder fishing this year.
Walk around. Look at the size of that sea bass. Look at the size of that sea bass. Hold that up, Tommy.
My dad caught a lot of lobsters, and we even got to take my cousin Anthony on his first fishing trip this year.
Oh, we got another keeper. Bring it in, bring it in, bring it in.
My dad always tells me how the bottom is covered with flounder. You can see here in one of his dive videos that it really is. We had a blast this year, drifting the rock piles and wrecks, catching flounder, triggerfish, and sea bass. We found a board floating on our way to a wreck one day and caught some chicken mahi under it.
Bring it to me.
We went through a whole pack of gulp to catch this triggerfish. Since we live so close to the beach in Brigantine, almost every night in the summer, we go surf fishing for bluefish. Unfortunately, in 4 years, we've never caught a bluefish. All we ever catch are pesky brown sharks and sand tigers.
It's like sketchy if it's hooked.
These toothed critters do nothing but burn up our drags and break our tackle. When we do land one of these sharks, we make sure we don't take them out of the water and release everyone healthy.
Just keep reeling against the drag. Just keep it tight. Circle it. Tommy, whip that in! He's It's going that way. Whip it in. Whip it in.
Sometimes, when I think we're finally going to catch a bluefish, it turns out to be a butterfly. The kingfish bite in the Brigantine Surf was on fire this year also. One of our most exciting trips was when we went back up to Barnegat Light to head out to the Barnegat Ridge in search of school bluefin and other pelagics. As soon as we got to the ridge, the Clark spoons were readily eaten by big cakes. Finally, we got the bite that we have been waiting for, and after a battle, we had on deck a New Jersey bluefin tuna. Even though our boat is small, we were still able to catch a bluefin tuna, which was definitely a highlight of our season. We caught a big houndfish this day also, which was another interesting catch. We ended up catching our limit of king mackerel that day and had some big examples from New Jersey waters. This was one of our best trips of the year. Next, we headed back out in the 2 times to check out a new set of numbers. When we got there, we found incredible bluefish and sea bass jigging. We probably caught over 200 fish that day. The wreck was covered in sand eels. We even got to see a sea turtle that day. We began to see reports of exotics being caught on the Manasquan Ridge. We got a bucket of spearing chum and epoxy jigs and trailered up there. We had immediate light tackle action on many different species of mackerel, false albacore, and bonito.
Whatever that was
We would troll spoons to find the fish, and once they were located, we would set up the chum slip.
Come on, give me a big pen.
I was so happy that Pablo was able to get in on this light tackle action.
What? Watch the rod, Tommy. Watch the rod, please. Get it.
Next, we headed out with Big Fish Marty and Jay Buddy to the Triple Wreck area to get in on the yellowfin tuna action. I finally got my chance to connect with a yellowfin on the jig.
What a hit.
Is the drag too tight?
I'll take pictures for you.
I know.
Unfortunately, after a 40-minute fight, the hook pulled, right as the fish was close to the gap.
I know.
This was my biggest letdown of the season.
Tommy's got 15 claws.
Fortunately, my dad did get a nice
Said it's
yellowfin
on the chunk.
All right, all right.
Fish Marty got in on the action and impressed us all with his skill and composure on the rod. Once the days began to get shorter and the nights got cooler, we started fishing under the lights on the docks behind Briantown. We caught school striped bass and snapper bluefish all night long.
Nice bass. Nice bass.
Just go backwards with it. Holy shit! Yes! Yes! Boy, we're gonna stop.
We caught some bass that were keeper size and some nice flounder.
Smile big one more time.
Our biggest bass under the lights was this one at 33 inches. One of the coolest things this year was learning how to throw a cast net to catch peanut bug. We even caught a few Jersey tarpon, or hickory shad, as they're known.
Good picture? I lower it down a little bit so I can see it.
Next up was the most special trip of the year. Dave Johnson invited my dad and I to go white marlin fishing with him and Captain Mark McDevitt on the 58 Viking JT. As soon as we got to the deep and the dredges and teasers put out, Captain Mark yelled from the bridge, "White marlin coming in hot." David quickly dropped back to the fish, hooked it, and passed the rod to me.
Make up.
I finally was in the moment that I had been waiting so long for. I was connected to a white marlin. Captain Mark skillfully backed down on the fish, and all I was focused on was keeping the line tight.
The boat's helping. That's how we get them up. Quick, get another one. Keep going.
That one's alright.
That was quick.
Come on, Tommy.
Make up, Tommy. Come on, come on, come on, come on.
7-to-1 ratio on that reel. Keep going. It's gonna get tight in a minute. There you go. All right. going. Good jump, Tom.
Get ready for him. When he jumps, you gotta get the slack out. There he is, Tommy. There he is. There he is. Woo! Look at him. There you go, buddy. Good job. You're doing good, Tommy. You're doing good. Yeah, I did. Double line again. Yeah, or is that too much time? Here he comes, Tom. He's gonna jump again.
I consider this one of my greatest accomplishments as an angler so far. I released a white marlin. We also caught a mahi on this trip.
Just leader it.
For our next adventure, Captain Tom Daffin invited us to go daytime sword fishing on the Fish and Fever out of Cape May, New Jersey. We headed way out into the deep in search of a gladiator. Tom had me hooked up on our first drop. The fish came up easy at first, but then made a run, and the hook pulled about 20 minutes into the fight. All in all, it still was an awesome experience, as I got to feel the power of a sword. It became the time of the year when the fall run begins to heat up. We hitched up the two Toms and headed north to Manasquan Inlet to get in on the striped bass bite. We headed north to the Shrewsbury Rock area and found bass on sand eels.
Hang on. Double. There's a whole mess of them here. It's a couple of them.
The umbrella rigs were effective and multiple hookups were not uncommon.
How many you got, Tommy? 3.
This was some of the best striped bass fishing that New Jersey has to offer.
Little bird play.
The fog rolled in unexpectedly and we were far from home. We decided to keep fishing and we caught trophy striped bass until my arms got tired. Luckily, the fog lifted and the fishing continued to be incredible. The fishing was so good, we kept the boat in the water at Hoffman's Marina. We slept on the boat and continued our adventure the next day.
Let's turn around.
The bite was as epic as the day before, with a larger class of fish.
Big smile. You do it again.
Between the 2 days of fishing, we caught and released over 35 striped bass, making this one of the best fall runs we've seen. Our next trip, we got back on Dave Johnson's Valhalla for the LBI Cup. We headed north to the seaside area. We had our most unexpected catch of the year, a 200-pound Atlantic sturgeon on a mojo.
Bad sun.
Here, look at me.
Oh, we got big.
For our final striped bass trip of the year, we towed the 2 toms to Barnegat Light and put Pop-Up on some fish. We headed toward the bathing beach area and once again found striped bass feeding on sand dunes.
We got like 7. That's it.
Go smile.
We had a dozen bass on a morning bite, up to 30 pounds.
Big smile.
We wrapped up our season the same way we always do. Head to the Voyager to squeeze in the last few days of black sea bass. We head to the deep water grounds many miles offshore to get in on this amazing fishery. We end our season every year with drop-in reel sea bass action.
You still got him? Not a bad one. Tommy on the jig. Think it's a good one?
This year we managed once again to win the pool with this nice pollock. And that brings us to a close on our 2020 season, a season that I will remember for all my life. 2020 was the year that I had the ocean as my classroom, and the year that I spent more time with my friends and family. "2020 was the year I got published. It was the year we said goodbye to where it all began. So as I said before, 2020 wasn't a bad year at all. It just depends on how you look at it and who you got to spend it with.